I'm weirdly nervous. I know. You don't think I should be. You guys don't seem to notice that this is not rational. It is irrational. I get it, but I am still nervous. I think we should start our own podcast. Just you and me, chitter-chattering about random stuff.
That's a great one. And we can have guests once in a while. People we like.
Only if we like them.
Yeah, exactly.
Only when we
Which is a very small subset of people. Can somebody Google the word lexicon again for me? Because I want to be absolutely sure about this.
Hi Swanand, thank you for coming in and chatting with us. Swanand, there's many, many things. I'm finding it harder and harder to introduce my guests with like their professions. But I am Ahmedabad, which apparently is the coolest. I am managing director Morgan Stanley, yoga coach, really sweet, very cool person. But you can Google him if you want to know about the professional things, and if you want to know about the personal things. Too bad, so sad. You have to be his friend for that. Thank you for coming and sharing a part of a very personal aspect of your life with us today. So, your father had depression with psychotic symptoms, with or without the diagnosis. You essentially grew up in a house where one parent had a mental illness, and so then naturally your mother would have to take care of him. And this is inexplicably difficult. And I guess the idea today is to try and put words to it for the people who go through it and don't have words, or I don't know, don't realize necessarily what's going on. So how old were you when you noticed that something was different?
As you mentioned, so my father suffered from severe depression. We started noticing this when I was about 14 or 15. That would be in the year 1994-95, thereabouts. Life before that was pretty normal. It was a middle-class Maharashtrian family. My father had a government job. My mom was a school teacher. I was reasonably good at studies. It was a very simple but very peaceful sort of a family life. It was only when I was in my 9th and 10th standard that I started noticing a change in his behavior, where he started to become incoherent in what he was saying. He became extremely moody. He used to have these, brooding sort of, he used to just sit in a corner, not talk. By and by, it started turning a bit into anxiety. He used to be agitated a lot. He used to hallucinate that, people are looking for him and things like that. So from, let's say, 1994 till the next 2, 3, 4 years, I think things went a bit downhill in terms of his mental health. And I was 14 at that point in time. So it sort of left me a bit confused because I had seen this person, and there's a very good person. He wasn't the 80s dad. He wasn't overbearing. He wasn't, a disciplinarian without a cause or anything of that sort. He was almost like a friend. So I'd seen this very nice person who was well-read, very intelligent. Everybody around me seemed to respect him a lot. Suddenly become this very different person who I couldn't associate with at all. And for a 14-year-old me, that felt very, very confusing, that what's really happening here.
So then what did you ask? What did you, like you said, it was a few years as his mental health got worse. How did you all interpret it?
Yeah. So a couple of things were happening at that point in time. So my mother was the only person who I could ask this sort of question to, that what's wrong with him? I mean, why is he behaving in this way? And unfortunately, I never got a very clear answer. The answer that I got was that he's not well, he's going through something, it's a phase. But there wasn't a very clear answer on what it really was.
You were the teenager. You were supposed to be going through the phase.
Absolutely. So it was a sort of a role reversal. But I knew that he was on medication. So I knew that this isn't something which is trivial. So he's gotten medical help for this and is taking tablets for this. But the what's really happened to him was never explained to me. It was also a time when mental health wasn't discussed as freely as it is today, and thank God for that. It was something to be kept hidden. So whenever somebody else, any of my relatives, asked my mom if he's not there for a family function or is not there for a wedding or anything, she used to say, "Oh, he's not well." So the young me was getting a cue that this is something which is not talked of openly. This is something which has to be kept indoors. This is something which is almost to be ashamed of. Something that you do not speak openly with anyone else. And the third most important thing was that I couldn't associate a why with it. Uh, because the chain of causality wasn't clear. And I used to think about it that if you're let's say walking, you fall down, you get bruised, you get treated, you get better. So the bruise has a why. Right? Why did you get bruised? Because you fell down and you scraped your knee against something. There was no why here. So why, let's say on January 1994, he seemed fine, and in March 1994, he's behaving like this. He at times can't even recognize me. There was no why. And that irritated me. It confused me to start with. Nobody gave me an answer because I was asking this question that what's this? And when the why wasn't being answered really well, it started turning into irritation and anger, saying that's just about him, right? He is shirking responsibility. He's being weak willed. He's doing it deliberately. He's faking it. I didn't voice it in as many words to anybody else, but this was me again. Again, give me the benefit of doubt that I'm 14. I'm in this, not the internet age. I can't Google anything at all, but it's just me thinking that this seems inexplicable, right? Somebody who's this today becomes the Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde almost sort of a thing. So it started morphing into anger, right? It started morphing into something like this man is just shirking responsibility. He's such a good person. I know him, and why is he doing this? I mean, isn't this irresponsible behavior? My mom used to, when I used to vent this to my mom at times, she used to give very oblique answers. She used to never, answer the question straight. She used to be about, she used to go on about past life, and she used to go on about, something's happened earlier and now you have to pay for it, and which didn't make any sense to me. It was probably her defense mechanism as well, that she must also be thinking, why is this happening to me? And she's finding some way to rationalize it. But those answers used to infuriate me even more. And a sort of that anger started getting bottled up inside. It's affected my personality, the way I have become as a person. A lot of it has its roots in that period. But that was what the 14, 15-year-old me was going through.
Yeah. I don't think there's any reason for anyone to not give you the benefit of doubt. Because 14 on its own is complicated.
Yes.
I am glad that he was on medication. And why I say that is because whenever I usually talk to people who knew someone who was going through a mental illness, it wasn't necessarily seen as an illness. So you didn't necessarily go to a doctor or treat it in any manner. So, the fact that your dad was getting treatment. Do you remember what led to we need to see a doctor?
Yeah.
Do you remember?
So a couple of things. He had an episode before I was born.
Okay.
I was told of this later. I didn't know it for the 14, 15 years of my life. And at that point in time, we had a doctor in our extended family. And at that point in time, he had referred him to a psychiatrist because I think he saw the symptoms. And when my mom saw similar sort of symptoms again, I think she said that we need to seek medical help. Thank God she did. But at that point in time, it was just a psychiatrist. It was somebody who was dispensing tablets. There was no other form of treatment that you may have today. And even the tablet that he used to have, right, in Marathi, we used to call it the pandri goli. And it had become sort of a metaphor for, my mom used to say, today he needs the pandri goli, which means he's a bit more agitated. He's he's anxious or whatever. So that Pandri Goli became a metaphor of for what's happening to him. Uh, and I, in a way, also started hating the Pandri Goli. I thought it's a crutch. So that became the, again, as I said, right, the conversation was never extremely open. The conversation was never in clear terms. The conversation was always metaphorical. It was always tangential. It was never straight attacking the point. And a 14-year-old has, 15-year-old has only that much mental ability to process things unless you are expressly told what's really happening. But yes, he was getting medical help. It was a psychiatrist, but it was also a time when it was only largely the public hospitals which used to have reasonable sized psychiatry wards. So when he had to be hospitalized, and he had to be hospitalized a couple of times in those 2-3 years, because he became extremely agitated, and it was very difficult to even physically control him when he used to have those bouts of agitation. I wouldn't say he was violent, but for his own safety, we thought that he needs to be under medical surveillance, and we had to go to the public hospital. There wasn't a private facility which could take care of somebody with his medical issue.
So it does sound like it was, I mean, there wasn't that much room to hide it when on the bad days.
Yes.
How did your mom cope? Like, I mean, I'm assuming she would need help to handle a fully grown man.
Yes.
Even to get him to the hospital.
Thankfully, I think in India, being a teacher helps, because you have a lot of students who are staying around you, who are elder. They were much elder to me. I mean, I used to call them everybody Dada. So they were at the age group 25, 30, 35. And she could, I mean, some of them had really kept in touch with her, and she could take help of some of them in those episodes. I think her coping mechanism was that she became much more religious, I thought. So she started doing a lot of praying, and she started doing a lot of which I didn't have a reaction or a view to, but I think now in hindsight, when I see it, I think she became a bit more spiritual / religious about these things. She also, as I mentioned, right, she used to say that no, this is something from my past life which I have to do in this life so as to not carry it forward. That logic used to irritate me. I mean, who knows? I mean, about these multiple chains of lives. But as an adult, I realized it was a coping mechanism that you also need to rationalize it to yourself in some way, that, why do I have to? And it's not easy, again, because just as those two people that I was seeing, she was probably seeing a very good husband, and then this person. So that's how I think she was. I mean, she had steel inside her. I mean, I just believe that she had steel inside her. I mean, she could take a lot. Sometimes I thought it was a fault. She could take a lot to a fault, that she never really asked for enough help, I felt, because, as I mentioned, the whole thing of let's creep it under wraps. So as you mentioned, right, in that circle of people, what's happening to him was evident, because you had to seek help, taken to the hospital. We knew what is happening to him, but nobody discussed it. Right? Nobody talked about it openly. So she would probably call somebody and say that, hey, I need help. He needs to probably be taken to the hospital. That person would know what it was. He would come. And it was almost as if we are speaking in code. We are not really addressing the main thing out there. And again, that felt irritating to me, that, I mean, what is this? Why do we have to call to take him to the hospital? So I think, yeah, that was that phase. Confusion, irritation, anger. So in those 3 years, it went through that range of emotions for me.
So 14, 15, 16.
Yeah, thereabouts.
It's interesting. Would you say that your mom was able to sort of take support from the neighborhood more than the family?
She was, in the first place, she was extremely reluctant to take support. So unless it's an absolute SOS, she would try to ring fence the whole thing. That was her instinct. And she would even try to ring fence it from me. She used to say that today is not a good day. Can you maybe go to your friend's house after school and maybe come back in the evening. So she used to try and ring fence it as much as she could. She didn't try to, in fact, uh, in 97, 98, we had a house in the suburbs of Pune. So both of them moved there. And one of the main reasons for that was to ring fence, his episodes. I mean, he used to be up and down. His episodes from me primarily because I was still in college.
I feel like now you're able to articulate what you were feeling, how you went through it. But like you said, at 14, it was a lot of confusion and then irritation and then anger. And 10th grade, pretty stressful
Yes.
time of your life, I would imagine. And it happened for a few years at a stretch. Can you tell us a little bit about what some of the bad days looked like? I know there's one particular incident that has stayed with you. So if you could share that with us.
Yeah. So just to be clear, over those 2-3 years, right, it wasn't as if he was consistently at the same level uh, of needing help. So over time, my mom and I used to almost talk about it like the weather report. That how is it today? And she used to say it's okay, which means that he's just sitting in a corner, he's brooding, right? He's not. So we can go on with our normal life. So that's an okay day. The bad day, as I said, would be when there would be a lot of agitation. There would be a lot of, not so much yelling, but a lot of incoherent talk, a lot of negative talk, uh, uh, a lot of I don't want to stay here and I want to get out. This is that kind of talking. Incoherence was almost there all through. I mean, just to probably wonder. I mean, at some point in time, I have to think if there's anything cryptic that he's saying that I need to decipher, but I dropped that pretty quickly. But the bad days used to be that, and I remember as you mentioned, right, there was this one day which I think would have been especially bad. I don't know, but when I came back from school, I rang the doorbell, and my mom said that she just gave me a sort of a small stool, and she said, "Can you just sit outside the house for a bit?" Uh, I'm sure he must have been going through a really bad episode, and I thought that was weird. That why am I not being let into? I'm back from school. I'm hungry. I need to. I mean, that's my normal time when I would get onto the sofa, sit, eat, have lunch or whatever. And why am I sitting outside the house on a stool? Uh, it was again irritation to start with, and then for a couple of hours, really nothing happened. And I knew better than to ring the doorbell again because I had sort of guessed that it's a bad episode. But the thoughts on that afternoon, I remember very clearly, were those of abandonment. That I felt that I've just been abandoned as collateral damage. That here is a person who's going through something. Here is the primary caregiver, and here is this third person who happens to be in the same orbit of these two people. And I thought that if I just, this is my school bag lying next to me, if I just walk and go, are these guys even going to notice? Are these guys even going to feel that, oh, we are missing a child in the house? Uh, Again, to be honest with you, that was a fleeting feeling because things hadn't been explained to me what's really happening. But I have felt it that when that feeling has stuck with me, that afternoon has stuck with me. And I felt bad that evening. But that evening, things improved. I mean, as with life, right? This too shall pass. So things improved that afternoon. We got in, I had food and all that, and life went on. But I shared that because it's remained. I wrote a short story about that afternoon, which I've not sent to anyone, but it's remained with me.
Yeah. You know, when we've talked about this before, you've mentioned that the same thing that you just said, that people talk about the person going through the illness, you talk about the primary caregiver, but you sometimes forget about the peripheral people. I was actually surprised that you said that because to me, and I was born in 1998, so we are talking about slightly different time zones.
Times,
And
yeah.
also I live in my bubble. And when you start working in the mental health space, you meet people who are slightly more aware about the mental health space than maybe the average person, right? So to me, I was like, of course, you have to take the child into consideration. Like, to me right now, in any mental health discussion, if there is a child of a parent who has an illness, the effect that it has on the child's upbringing is 100% talked about. Again, maybe not in other circles, but to me it seems so obvious. Technically, you're supposed to have two parents who look after you and give you attention. And yes, most people have jobs, and so the attention of the parents is taken by household things, jobs, etc. But there's still a decent and a lot of time and attention given to the child in the house. When your father has a mental illness, one that clearly has also psychotic symptoms in terms of he's not coherent, he's maybe not understanding who you are, and he's getting, anxious and paranoid about things, he's obviously not present.
Yes.
To be there
Yes.
for you. He was for 14 years. And now he's not. And it's difficult to take care of someone who has a mental illness, which means the other person who should have been taking care of you is now also preoccupied taking care of him. So, I don't know. I just feel like I'm sorry that you felt like no, I'm not feeling bad for you, or I don't mean it from a pity point of view.
I get it.
But having a mental illness has a very big effect on everybody in the surrounding environment, because you're 14, you're going to school, something you don't understand is happening in your house, you have a best friend. I don't know, did you ever try and tell your best friend what was happening? Did you ever have to explain things to, your friends? What was that part of
that
it
situation
like?
So let me tell you the other side of the story, right? When somebody's going through something, in hindsight or for a third person, it most times looks much worse than what the person is feeling. Right? So I wasn't feeling the same intensity of how can I not be taken care of, right? I thought of it as that I have been dealt a set of cards, and this is the hand that I have been dealt. There was irritation, there was anger, but at no point in time, maybe few fleeting moments here and there, but at no point in time I felt that, oh God, what is this? The heavens have collapsed. I never felt that way. And I've spoken of this afternoon with my mom much later in life, and this afternoon being more a symptom of what that entire period was. And she said a couple of things. One, she said that I wanted to ring fence it. I didn't want you to see things which I thought would affect you. So that was a very rational way of dealing with the situation. And the second thing was her optimism, if you look at it from one lens, or her delusion, if you look at it from another lens, was that this is a very short-lived thing. He's going to be like out of this really quickly. So why make a big thing out of it? And she used to always tell me that all that spirituality, religiousness was that because I thought that he's going to bounce back out of it. Completely get back to, and that was her, probably that was where she was deriving her source of strength from. That this is, you have to just go through maybe another week or a month or whatever. So I thought she was right from what she was trying to do. I felt what I felt very strongly on that day. When it came to friends, again, the really close friends that I have, their parents probably knew what was happening. And given the times, they had probably told my friend not to broach that subject at all. And they used to like consciously sidestep that whole thing and never bring it up. So they were best friends, but I never myself. He's not well. Okay, that's where the whole thing. So I never really had a very heart to heart on this subject with friends either in school or in college who I confided in that this is what I'm feeling. Neither did any of the elders in the extended family come and ask me that how are you doing. It was generally a motivational speech that you know you have to be strong. You are the man of the house. You have to take care of your mom as well. So it was never.
Without necessarily addressing what you had to be strong about.
Yes. Yeah, you're okay. You're going through a situation which is not ideal for a 14-year-old, but that means you have to step up to the plate. And in a way, that was good because I learned how to operate a complete bank account at the age of 13, 14, take money out, put money in, fixed deposit, this, that, and the other. I became very adept at those things. It was, so as I said, right, when I think about it in hindsight, it's then that I feel that, oh God, this was, but when I was going through it, it didn't feel that bad or that calamitous to me, that I don't see anything ahead of me. And that's what my mom told me, that okay, listen, you have to focus on your studies. You have to, this drama, she used to call it drama. There's this drama which will keep happening on the side. Ignore it. Don't let it get to you. I tried to follow her advice, but there were certain instances that it crept through. It bled into. It's very hard to be like completely partition that thing. So that's what really happened. But I think the biggest, I feel what would have helped was probably somebody sitting me down and explaining it to me. A 45-year-old me talking to a 14-year-old me, saying that, hey, buddy, this is what's happening. It's not anybody's fault. Uh, and somebody just telling me what's really, really happening there, rather than talking around it, talking about it would have been very useful.
Yeah, of course. And so when was it that you realized, or that someone explicitly said, this is a mental illness, or, whatever? Did you have any inkling of the articulation mental illness?
No.
No. So in your head, it was some illness, that because medication was there, some illness.
Yeah.
But because no explanation was given and, it was a painful situation, you started getting frustrated at him. You thought he was faking it. Your mother was clearly protecting you. Then what? When did it become a mental illness?
So the terms mental health, mental illness, depression, these entered my lexicon much later in life.
What is a lexicon?
Lexicon is your vocabulary or your.
Okay.
Sorry. It entered my vocabulary much later in life, right? At that point in time, he was not well.
So okay.
Yeah, he's not well, which is why he's taking Pandrigoli. But that was all. How was this thing labeled? This was labeled as he's not well, which is why he's taking medication. What exactly is not well? We didn't double click on not well to try and open to see what that not well is. It was left there. So these episodes, based on these episodes, I formed certain conclusions in my head. One was the fact that I thought he was faking it, he was shirking responsibility, he was weak-willed, this, that, and the other. It also started shaping my personality in a way that I want to be anything but this guy in life, right? I mean, your parents or somebody who's a figure of authority can influence you in two ways. You can either try to emulate that person, that I want to be like, this person, or you can be completely repelled by that person, saying that I'll be anything but this person. So I have become, that's what I'm told, I become a very chronic responsibility taker, that if somebody gives me a responsibility, I will, as if it's extremely important. It's very hard for me to ask for help, right? There's some of these personality types which probably got shaped, personality traits that got shaped during that period. And I was still sort of angry into my 20s. But it hadn't become so. By 18, 19, 20, I had become largely independent. I mean, I was still going to college and all that. So money, thankfully, I must say, money, thankfully, was never a issue. It wasn't that as if we were rolling in riches, but there was enough for a good education. There was enough for food and enough for all those things. So that was never a problem. So I sort of started becoming very independent very early in life. Uh, the first conversation when I again broached this subject, right, I had almost consciously bottled it and buried it inside me. And this man I couldn't stand the sight of, right? To put it very bluntly, that whenever I'm thinking of myself when I'm in my 20s, 21. And I used to be like, okay, I have an escape route, I can get out, I can become an independent. I used to tell my mother that, I mean, why are you chained to this man? Uh, are you a wife or are you a nurse? She didn't take kindly to, this was this angry young me, 20, 21, saying that, this guy's taking advantage of you. Can't you see it? And she used to be dead, like, no, you don't know what's happening. She had a point of view. She explained that to me. I started dating Prerna, who I married. And when things got serious, I told her, hey, listen, my dad has been through this. It's still in a phase. I wouldn't say it's as severe as it was in the 90s. He's in a better place, but he's not fully back. And I wanted to, sort of like disclose this. And in fact, went ahead and said that, "Hey, listen, this can be hereditary. So if you are having any sort of, second thoughts about anything, I'll understand. I mean, since we are now deciding to get married." And she was like, "Are you nuts? What are we even talking about?" So I sort of went to her with the demeanor as if I'm going to tell her a deep dark secret about myself. And she was like, "Yeah, I have an uncle who went through exactly the same thing, and we took care of him, and he's again not fully recovered, but he's in a better place." This is very, I mean, it's normal. And I said, "Oh, this is not the reaction that I was expecting. So this seems to be something which is not just happened to me and to us. Seems like something which has been happening to other people." And probably talking about, because she was so easy about it, and she gave me all the details about what's happening to her uncle and how what was happening and what was the medication and stuff like that. And I said, "Oh, so I can talk about it. I can, admit that my father was suffering from a mental illness, and I need not be ashamed of admitting to that fact." So that was the first sort of a, easing up of the bottled thing inside, that okay, it's okay to talk about it. The other thing which she used to say, and she probably still does. My father, by the way, is no more. He's not with us. He passed away in 2021. The other thing which she used to say was, "You are being too harsh on him. That you have judged him very, very harshly. What's happening to him is not his doing. He has very limited control over what's happening to him." And I used to be like, "You don't know him. I know him. He's my dad. So you don't give me this third person advice. You form your own relationship opinion about him. Don't try to change my. I know what I have been through, and I know the kind of person he is, because I have painted him as this, as I have described." But she used to always keep saying that, "No, no, you're being too harsh. This is not what it is. You're being too harsh." And at some point in time, I said, "Hey, listen, we're not bringing this up again. You have your views, I'll have my views." And she decided that, okay, this seems like something it's too prickly with this guy. We should not talk too much about it. But that is, I think, around the age 24, 25, when it started to bit mellow down my impression about, till then I was very angry. But it then started to mellow down. Uh, and she was a big influence on that.
When you went to Prerna to talk about it, at that point, did you have the word mental illness in your vocabulary?
I don't remember exactly what I said. I might not have said mental illness, but I would have said something like, mentally he's not all there, or something of that sort. Or he's not always fully coherent, or he needs medication, something of that sort. Again, I'm reasonably certain I haven't used the word mental illness here. He's not all there. He sometimes acts like this. So I've described broadly the symptoms to her. She has probably understood what it means and given me a parallel example from
Her uncle.
her.
Did she ever say, like, was you didn't say mental illness. Was her response to your description of what was going on, oh, my uncle has a mental illness too? Or you don't really remember that word being...
I don't remember that word being used, but my uncle, or I don't think it was uncle, it was some even further
Someone.
than uncle, has went through a similar thing. Is what she said.
And now, by this time, the internet has started to
Yes.
exist, and things are,
Yes.
We have more access to information.
Yes.
So now, have you at this point found out that mental illness exists?
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay. When did you find out it exists?
So as I said, that I have made extremely firm views about this person very early on in my life. Right. So it's like this conspiracy theorists in the US who say that the moon landing never happened. And no matter how much internet knowledge you throw at them, they say that the moon landing never happened. I was that kind of a person. This is fake. He's faking it. And I don't want to. So I bottled it. I bottled not only the emotion, but I also bottled my curiosity about it. That I don't want to know what this is. You tell me in whatever euphemistic terms you want to tell me. I know what this is. Right? And that is all there is to it, which is what Prerna is trying to tell me. She's like telling me that, hey, listen, this is something which is, outside his control, etc. But I'm still this adamant guy.
Was that about him only, or mental illness in the world?
I had taken the sample of n is equal to 1, which is, I had taken one example. Biryani tastes bad in this restaurant. Biryani is bad.
Okay.
So I had sort of said, excuses. Right? Anybody who says that, hey, this is having a weak-willed, excuses.
असं काय नसतं.
असं काही नसतं. So I was in that camp that ऐसा कुछ नहीं होता है. I am fine. I mean, what's the big deal? I have been through things, if you put it that way. Look at me. I have had the will to fight it. Why don't you have the will to fight it? But maybe, this 5% sliver of window, that maybe because I know Prerna, I trust her judgment, everything, willing to consider that he might not be entirely faking it.
Okay.
That there might have been something, but there is probably 10 pice worth of thing which has been made into a rupee.
Okay.
Right? So I've come from, yeah.
So Prerna was the switch for that 5%.
Prerna was the switch to open at least a window.
Cool. And then you said that you told me that you met a friend when you were in your 30s.
Yes. So there's this girl who I went to college with, and we were friends. We were in the same sort of a group of 4-5 people. And she was what you would call somebody for whom the word zest for life has been, defined. Always there for a party, always there for a trek, a picnic, some sport, good in academics, wants to do well. I mean, full of enthusiasm for things, very talented, academically quite strong. And I used to actually almost look up to her, saying that, hey, listen, look at her. She's doing so many things and doing them so many well. She's full of life. And we lost touch after graduation, and at a reunion, we met up almost 10 odd years later. Went out for dinner or whatever. And she said that she went through a period of depression. She had recovered, she said. And she had also maintained a diary all through those years of depression that she went through. And she told me a couple of things that says, listen, buddy, there is no why to it. Right? I have tried to analyze it from multiple angles, but I can't come to a precise why, or a why now, or a why me. Right? I mean, you can make a few guesses here and there, but there isn't a I fell down, I got bruised. You won't find that causality. That's the first thing that she said. The second thing which I inferred, because she actually took a career break, and somebody who was doing really, really well in her career, etc. I said, this girl can't be faking it, right? Because it has cost her her career. It has cost her probably a few relationships. And I know this girl. I know who this girl is. So she can't be faking it, right? I mean, it would be self-sabotage to a different level if she is faking it. So that conversation told me that this is something where the precise why may be hard to get a grip on. And the second thing that I sort of became open to that idea that he, and by he I mean my father, might not be faking it. I mean, why would somebody who's on Jan 1994, such a great guy, decides to start faking it from March 1994? Uh, so those two things mellowed my view of him at an intellectual level, saying that he probably didn't have control over it, and he's not been faking it. Plus, what Prerna was still. So I went back home. I told Prerna this conversation with this girl, and she said, "Yeah, I mean, I was sort of telling you similar things." So at an intellectual level, now I'm much more mellowed, but something has happened at a feelings level, right? At the age of that is still very hard to overcome. So at an intellectual level, I understand, but at a feelings level, I see him doing something, especially when he's talking negative, especially when he's very pessimistic about everything, and that just flies in the face of what I am. I feel I'm a very optimistic person. When I come home, used to stay with us later. I used to come home. The talk used to be all negative. That tomorrow I'm going to die, and that used to just get to me. I used to be like, "Man, what kind of rotten conversation is this? How can you die tomorrow? You cannot die tomorrow." But it was his way of whatever, expressing what he was feeling inside. So I knew at an intellectual level that he's not so it's not as if that he's waiting for me to come home, let this guy come home, and I'll irritate him by seeing these negative things, and I'll get him triggered. That's not what he's trying to do. But I felt that was what he's trying to do. He's just waiting for me to come home and say all these negative. I should say this to Prerna, that he's just waiting for me to come home, and Prerna will be like, "Can you even listen to yourself?" uh, because something that changing something which has been felt at an emotion level, or something which you have formed a very hard view about at an emotional level, is very difficult to change. Intellectually you might still have made that adjustment. So those were the two incidents, I think, Prerna, to start with, which mellowed me a bit. I would say this conversation with this friend of mine from college, which told me that no, this is somebody who you know very well. This is a person who you have known, and if she is saying this, there is merit to considering the other side, no matter how strong your view has been.
So then did you Google it or something? Because I'm assuming, your mom was taking care of him once you got married to Prerna, and
It was primarily Prerna who was.
Okay, so did you at some point get involved in his treatment plan?
So my mom passed away in 2016. So the 2000s were a bit of from the year 2000 till 2010 was a bit of an up and down for him, still staying in the outskirts of Pune. But I would say he was okay. He would call him a man who's generally morose, but there was nothing more than that to it. That he wouldn't participate in, if there's a family gathering or something, he wouldn't participate actively in it. He would be there physically, but not talk much. He would just sit in the chair on the side, etc., which was the best that we would have seen in the past 20 years. So we were like fine with him. That he was just sit in a chair, not have very little conversation, not speak a lot about anything. By and by, Prerna got involved. We got them as they aged. We could get them a flat in Mumbai, which was close to where, not very close, but close to where we were staying. So it was at that point in time, and we're now talking 2012, 2013, which is more like when I'm 32, 33, that I started getting a bit more involved in the medical care, going to doctors, psychiatrists, psychologists with him. They telling me, what is happening to him. Again, I have not Googled anything, right? I'm relying on the medical professional telling me that, this is what it is. By now, mental illness is in my vocabulary. This is lexicon. Yeah, by now, mental illness is in my lexicon. Depression is in my lexicon because it is written on the prescription, right? Severe depression. I'm no longer ashamed about it. I had to take leave from office when he was going through something for a week, and I quoted the actual reason. father is going through a mental illness. I need time off because I need to take care of him. And the world moved on. I mean, it didn't really care about, this girl, mental illness. So nobody had that reaction. So in that sense, at least I was more open in that sense, talking about it. I wouldn't say I got very, very involved in his care. It was primarily Prerna who would toggle her office then and, taking care of him. It wasn't easy, I guess, for her either. But I never told Prerna that, hey, he's faking it. What I had the conversation that I had with mom, thankfully, I had outgrown that conversation. But I couldn't never really bring myself to be the primary caregiver, right? Because again, there was so much emotion involved that it would quickly escalate into a slanging match. Uh, uh, and I wanted to get myself not in that space because I knew that wasn't the best either for me or for him, which is why Prerna became the go between, and she became somebody who became the primary caregiver for him. But I'm no longer very angry at him now. I'm feeling a bit sad almost that here is this man who I've known. I'm now thinking about the 1980 to 1994, who could have had so much more out of his life. But because of this unfortunate thing, he has had to probably, his quality of life has suffered a lot from that period till he was with us.
Yeah. Hindsight is bittersweet.
Yes.
Always.
Yes.
My question now says, what is it like now, and how does it feel? Because I'm assuming there would be, I don't know, some guilt, some frustration, which I mean, you're also calling it sadness that it was the way it was, and that part of that didn't have to be that way. It was a lack of knowledge, not so much lack of will.
Yes.
And you also, you've talked about how it affected your personality as the kind of person that you grew up to be, and seems like you've spent a decent amount of time working through whatever it is that you felt. Right now, how do you see him?
As I said, the predominant feeling now is that it was unfortunate what he had to go through. I also feel that the years of rage that, from the age of, let's say, 15 till maybe mid 20s, early 20s, I think that emotion wouldn't have been so strong had I got a better perspective of things. Let's say if I could have talked to you and you could have sat me down and told me that, hey, listen, this is what's really happening. That strong emotion that got created inside me during those years, it may have been not that strong. It could have been a bit more mellow.
Do you think it affected other parts of your life?
So I'll tell you, I've thought about it, and you don't want to attribute all facets of your personality to one period or one incident. But as I said, it makes it very hard for me to ask for help. I feel I still don't like people making excuses. I mean, although it might be very genuine, if somebody says that, traffic or whatever, traffic is a very common excuse. I just don't like people who can't deliver on their word. For instance, there might be a genuine reason behind it, but since he couldn't keep up any word to anybody, I sort of went the other way. I don't know. What I have said is like I have to do it. I also started feeling, and thankfully again that part has mellowed, that the world is a transactional place, right? You remember, as I said, that I felt abandoned at different points in time, which made me believe that everything in this world is transactional, right? What you give and what you take. There is nothing called unconditional love, right? Be it a parent, be it a partner, be it anybody. That was the feeling that I was operating in my 20s, because that's what I had seen, that uh, I hadn't seen unconditional. I hadn't seen unconditional love. It was always, even around me, the talk was that, okay, you have to take care of us when we get old, which is why we are taking care of you when you're young, right? So there was this intergenerational sort of transaction that was happening with Prerna. Again, that sort of, I mean, I saw unconditional love in that family, for a child, for without expecting anything in return. The parents just love the kid because it is their kid, whatever. But it made me very, so let's say you do something good for me, right? My first instinct is, what does she want? I am not prepared. My instinct is not to believe that she's done it because of pure, goodwill, of pure good heart. Again, I am telling myself that, buddy, that's your instinctive reaction. The world is not like that, and which again makes it, I don't know if you know people like that, but there are some people who just find it hard to accept love. So that's become another, sort of a personality trait, where asking for help, accepting love, when accepting compliment is hard for me. I'll always try to deviate it. It's a very small thing, but it's almost as if I don't want to disappoint anyone, right? It's become that part of me that if I have committed something to somebody, I'll really try hard to
Make it happen.
make it happen. Also, since I'm this way, the word help has a very different connotation for me. If somebody sends me a message saying that, hey, I need your help, I'll call you from the other corner of the world, because I put myself in that person's shoes and I'm thinking that, oh, if I'm asking for help, this must be really serious. And when somebody else asks me for help, again, that must be real. And then they say, oh, can you give me the number of this friend of yours? I'm like, so, so this word help has a connotation for me.
So these are sort of long-term effects on your personality and things like that. Do you think there was anything very specific in that time period that got affected? Like, because you said there were these years of rage. In those years, do you think you did things differently because of your anger? Like, did it go beyond your relationship with your father?
I was in a hurry to grow up. A lot of people tell you, they look back at their childhood with fondness. So many people will tell you that I want to be a school going kid again. I want, no responsibility, just go. That thought repels me. That I don't want to be a school going. I'm so glad I'm an adult. I couldn't wait to grow up, because that meant independence. That meant being away from, all this so-called drama that was happening. So I think in those years I was really striving for independence. So I took my first summer job in my 10th standard vacation, because I started understanding money, and then said that money is the way to buy independence. And so I had my first summer job then, and then every summer I did something. Either we did some small business as a group of friends, or we did a summer job or something of that sort. So I couldn't wait to grow up, right? And that was my thing, that if I have the wherewithal to do this, I will kill it, right? I'm just because I'm in this situation. So it probably made me grow up quickly. Those years, I also had trouble getting into relationships. Prerna was probably the first serious girlfriend that I had, because again, this transactional thing that's there in the back of your head. What does she want? Does she want my notes? What does she really need? So that meant that I could never, I was always sort of this island of one, and thinking of everything in like transactional terms. So those years were that I want to quickly get onto my own 2 feet, and if I can, even get a small house somewhere, or all those things never happened. But that was the thing that
Just got a big house instead.
much later.
I think you dealt with it all fairly well.
No complaints. I mean, again, when you talk to me about this episode, the one thing which I was not very sure of was that I don't want this to come across as a sob story or anything sort of, like a really sad story of this, guy who had to go through this when he was young. I mean, I would take it all again. No problem whatsoever. It's made me what I am. I'm very happy, very proud of that fact. But I also thought that this extremely strange age that I went through this, and the kind of convictions that I made with inadequate data. I think somebody similar who's going through this hopefully is much more open to understanding it than I was,
And maybe it doesn't have to take so long.
to reconcile.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I don't really know where this fits in, but first of all, so many stereotypes in my head. Okay. I know that they're in my head, but you use words like lexicon. Okay. On one side. On the other side, you make very bad jokes with Popoy, my husband. I can't think of one right now, but if you just watch some of Popoy's reels and then realize that Swanand is actually that kind of a person. Okay, he will make bad Marathi puns and jokes and like two very different kinds of people, at least in my head. Then I'm imagining like Morgan Stanley and all of these things, and I'm imagining this man in a suit who's like very smart and very practical. And then for some reason, also like high IQ. These days, high IQ must also equal high EQ, otherwise, you're just not good enough. And again, the stereotype in my head is you must be best. And so then you must have high IQ and high EQ. So now this is what I'm imagining, okay, as a person. And not to make it a sob story or a sad story, but I've always tried to wonder, because I get it that it seems so illogical. You just cannot figure out the why. And nobody's really explaining it to you. The person who's going through it most definitely is not explaining it to you because God knows what they think is going on.
I don't think anybody's explaining it to him as well.
Exactly, right? So he is not necessarily going to be able to tell you what's happening. And so, part of the reason to do this podcast is that if someone had the conversation with you, things would have been different.
Yes.
Better, worse,
God knows.
but
Different.
more informed.
Yes.
You would have more control over how your relationship developed with your father, how your relationship with yourself developed, all of those things. And I generally feel like making more informed decisions is a better place to be because
Absolutely.
you feel a little more control over your own
Absolutely.
life. You're choosing. And so there's one side of it where I get that you don't get it. And I get that it's frustrating and it's bizarre and life is hard for everyone. Why do you get slack? Like, why do you get a leeway? And I know that one of the things you said, which I found was a nice articulation of it, is that the difference between you and him, for lack of better comparison right now, was that he didn't think tomorrow was going to get better.
Right.
Whereas if you or a normal person does not have a mental illness is going through something, you're like, today's a bad day, but tomorrow will be better.
Exactly.
But it just feels like willpower from the outside.
That's right.
And so it's really difficult to explain. But I guess my desire from this is to be like, it's possible, guys. And to hear someone like you who has clearly talked about being on the side of no, I refuse to even look at this, to, oh, Okay,
Maybe.
maybe. Oops. Just so that we can all have more curiosity, less judgment, and find out a little bit more before making those rigid,
Hard judgment.
hard judgments on
Absolutely.
what is and what could be. And I guess my last question would be if there's anything you would want to add in terms of something you'd like to put out there about this whole thing.
Well, I think something that you said triggered a thought. It's about this IQ, EQ thing that you mentioned. So people who think very logically, or people who have a very, as I say, left-brained approach to things, they find it hard to understand things which do not have a chain of causality. A led to B, B led to C, C led to D. It is almost this arrogance of your intelligence where you believe that if there is anything worth understanding, you will understand it. If you don't understand it, it's not worth understanding. And as you said, that this is one area where it is very hard to form that strong chain of causality, which for somebody who's very logical in their thinking might be led to believe that this is not worth understanding. But thankfully, for the multiple experiences that I had with multiple people, I could, I could at least consider the other side of the argument. I wouldn't say that I'm completely on the other side now, but if I was leaning extremely to one side, saying that such a thing is not there, I think I have at least come a bit towards the middle. I don't understand it completely. I would be lying if I say I do, but I am reasonably convinced that
Such a thing exists. Yeah. That is, yeah. A lot of times it's also the really smart people who find it hard to wrap their heads around it. Yeah. Okay, cool. Thank you so much for
Thank you, IK. This was fun
talking
conversation
to us about this, and
you made it easy. It's not an easy conversation for me to have. So thank you for that.
One thing that we do before we end every episode is one of the things that Agatsu talks about a lot is emotional hygiene.
Yes.
And one of those things, one of the aspects of emotional hygiene is to notice the little things. Not in the sense of, yes, in the sense of gratitude, but more in the day-to-day things, because for all you left brain people, our minds are wired to notice the negative stuff so that we can protect ourselves first, right? Because I gotta survive first. So we don't necessarily end up giving the same amount of attention to something that is okay. Because no firefighting is required. And so the idea that now you purposefully make sure you give attention to things that are not so bad. And it could change your perspective on how your day is going, or how your week has gone, or how your life has gone. I guess it's that optimism that you talk about.
Yes.
So you really don't need to do this because you already live it, but it's fun. So we're going to do it anyway.
Oh, it's a marker.
It's a very cool marker. Lexicon. Lexicon.
Lexicon. You first?
I learned a new word.
Lexicon. Lovely.
Sounds like it's reminding me of Artemis Fowl, which is a teenage fiction book that I'm reading for some reason. Leprechaun. What's yours?
Oh yeah, sorry, I just So on my way here, I saw white clouds against a clear blue sky, which reminded me of a teddy bear toy I had as a child, and I smiled.
That's so nice. Where did you see a blue sky in Bombay?
While I was taking the U-turn near SV Road.
yay, we still have blue skies.
Yeah.
Ho gaya, but I want you to tell the teacup story.
I'll tell the teacup story.
Say na.
So I say extempore.
Essay extempo.
When I was 3, maybe 3, yeah, maybe I think I was 3. I woke up one morning before my mom, which was again as rare as seeing blue sky in Mumbai. And my dad mostly used to be up at before 6. And the first thing he used to do in the morning was to make tea. And he saw me up and he asked me, do you want tea? And we used to have very adult conversations. I don't remember my dad doing baby talk or small child. It was almost like full sentences. I used to respond in full sentences. It was even at the age of 3. He said, do you want tea? I said, yeah. And so he was making tea. He was drinking tea himself. So he put a bit of it in the saucer and he sort of put it to my lips and I drank it. And I loved it. And then I started refusing milk. And that made my mom wild because I used to just refuse to have any milk. But he was, I think, secretly very happy that I had liked tea. So he got me a small teacup. I couldn't hold a saucer. So he got me a small ceramic teacup which had holders on both sides. So you could hold it with both hands as a child would have it, not like a normal cup. So he specifically bought it. I don't remember him buying a shirt or anything for me. That was all left to my mom. So this was one thing that he specifically bought, and I used to secretly have tea whenever my mom was
Not looking
or she wasn't around. So it's a very, very fond memory. And he used to instantly wash that small cup so that nobody gets to know that we have had tea, and used to wash his own cup as well. And both those cups, his mug and my small tiny cup, it used to hang side by side on the dryer. And I always have a memory of those two cups next to each other as the camaraderie that I had with him, our little secret that we are having tea when nobody's looking. And it's a very fond memory, again, like the teddy bear toy.
like the clouds.
Like the clouds.
Cool. Thank you so much.
Cheers, this was fun.
Thank you for watching The Curious Case Off with me. In the description below, there will be links, further reading, summaries, guidelines, resources, everything that we could find and put together that we think you might find helpful. Just to reiterate that everything that is said in the episode as well as in the resources below should not be used to self-diagnose. If you have any questions or queries, please reach out to a mental health professional who is qualified. And if you like the episode, then like, share and subscribe to Agatsu Foundation, our YouTube channel. And if you want to know anything more about the organization, then you can find out at www.agatsufoundation.org.